Hi folks, with Tacitus Today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about education and access to education and how that's managed and what the benefits of universal access, free taxpayer funded education is, and what that benefit is in the wider sort of sense. Now, education is something that leftists have for quite some time, many years now. They've treated this as it's a way to create an equal society, equity. If everyone's got a PhD, then everyone is equal. But in order to get that nirvana of equity and equality, they have to keep on lowering the standard, because only the brightest, hardest working, most diligent, intelligent people will get the PhDs. But then that's still elitist. That means only a few have it, and they're treated with respect and deference, whereas the rest are not. So the solution is give everyone a PhD. So this is always their default position of education. I'm the education president. I'm the education prime minister. And it's wafted around and waved around as if it's some sort of magic fucking wand, which it isn't. Not everyone's bright enough to get a PhD. Not everyone's even bright enough to make it to junior high school. Some people are just too lazy, too stupid. Maybe their circumstances at home are diabolical. They've got a mother with 50 million children by 50 million different men, and home life is just one cycle of endless mayhem, and so they never can focus on it. I mean, there are a whole range of things, but this idea that education itself, if everyone has access to education, that's good. That's very, very good if everyone has that. I'm a firm believer in bright kids from poor households getting scholarships. I think that's a very important thing to have in the wider sort of process of managing education. But giving everyone an equal access to education and then creating equal outcomes, those are two different things. And this is where the ideologues get caught up. They want the equal access, and they assume or hope from that then there will then be equal outcomes. But the same people that were doing well before they started pushing the equal access are the same people, pretty much. I mean, there are exceptions, of course, bright kids from poor households with scholarships, for example, but it's the same people who are doing well in school. The brighter kids, the harder working kids, the more conscientious kids, and so on. They will always do better in a merit-based education system. So when the ideologues don't get their equal outcomes, well, let's just get rid of merit. And with that in mind, the Australian government, the leftist, very, very pro-globalist Australian government, is talking about and is proposing, and I haven't seen details. I'm not even sure details exist. I think they're just going for media headlines at the moment. But they're talking about that everyone should have access to community college. Now in Australia, that's called TAFE, T-A-F-E, technical, and I think it stands for technical and further education, or technical adult and further education, something like that. And TAFE anyway in Australia is called, but it's a community college. Now, some of the courses have to be paid for either by the employer, say in the case of, I don't know, an apprentice mechanic or plumber or something like that. They start these courses and they have to attend the community college, I don't know, one or 2 days a week, I think it is. And the rest of the time they work for their employer, and the employer then pays for or subsidises their education through the community college. That's been in place for quite some time. Before universities expanded in Australia, there were a lot of courses such as business management, accounting and finance and so on that were done through these colleges. So these colleges played a huge part in the advanced and post-high school education of people in things such as I mentioned, business management, accounting, and of course the apprenticeships. Now, the significance of the community college has declined, given that the university system has been hugely expanded, and silly little Mickey Mouse courses that were once 3-month courses in the community college have now been turned into degree courses. Again, this is all part of the equity, equal outcomes program. So there'd be a 3-month course on studying African American music or something like that. That's that at the community college. That's now been yanked out of the community college and put in university as a 3-year or 2 or 3 year degree course. So people that gender studies and peace studies and goodness knows what are now in the universities. But what's happened in the community colleges is if you want the lowest paid job imaginable, like pushing a broom at a retail store or something like that, then there are now courses in the community college to cover it, and they call it then there are units, retail 1, retail 2, and retail supervision 1 and 2. So they broke it up so it sounds high and mighty, but they were charging kids for this. So for the lowest paid job available, you had to go and do a year or so at the community college, pay for your own, paying for it and having to buy books and whatever else. So it was hardly a rigorous course, and everybody passed it. But the idea was that you're processed through a certification factory. Not that you've learned something, not that you've passed something, not that you've shown you're a good student or a dedicated student, or you've meritoriously passed an exam. It's not everybody gets a certificate. It's a participation trophy thing. But what happened was retail organizations started to demand the certification thing. So if you've got 2 people applying for the job, say someone maybe hasn't worked in a retail store before, but someone applying for a job, then you say, well, I want someone who's got the community college certification. Again, it doesn't mean you've learned anything. It doesn't mean you're there, but it could be demanded. So someone who'd been through the certification factory, and again, just given the participation trophy certificate, they would get preference in the job hiring. Or have you done retail supervision, because that would get preference when it comes to being promoted in some way as a department manager or something like that in a retail. You're in charge of this half of the shop or something. So this started to be then it took on a life of its own. It becomes like a vicious cycle, not a virtuous one, because there's no merit-based activity here. So it's a vicious cycle. So kids from poor households, because they're the ones going for this sort of job, or college kids or something, I guess, but they're at university anyway. So these kids are being, or were being, strong-armed indirectly into having to go to the community college, spend not vast sums of money, but nonetheless, it's money they didn't really have. They'd have to borrow it and so on, or maybe borrow it from their folks if the folks had enough money. And then they would get this very low pay, the lowest paid jobs in the economy, or among the lowest paid jobs in the economy, and then they would get those. Now, there was also a backhander, because the government, Western governments, now use insurance companies to sort of backhand force people to do these courses, these bullshit courses. So what the insurance company would say, well, we're not going to insure your store, your stores, say in a chain. We're going to choose unless you have a majority of certified community college people. Now the whys and wherefores, well, we think they act more safely, or they put the fires out more quickly, or something. It doesn't matter. But the insurance can say, well, we're just not going to insure you. No other insurance company will insure you unless you have these certificate factory kids working there. Now, okay, you say to the insurance companies, well, why don't you go and get lost then? I'm not going to be told. But the government says you can't have the retail store open to do trade for business, have customers unless you have the insurance. The insurance company won't give you insurance unless you have the certificate factory people in there that the government itself has mandated, and so on. So that's how they work in tandem to then, of course, the insurance company then charges more and so on. So it's very, very much, I don't know whether they're, governments and insurance companies are acting directly in cahoots. I suspect they are, but even if they're not, one takes advantage of the moves of the other in a way that is tantamount to to conspiracy to, well, it's a shakedown in effect. We won't let you make money until you do what we want. So this is now with this community college. Those are some of my concerns, at least, that this will create on the backhand people who are required to go through community college. Now, during this time at community college, they can't work a full-time job because they're at college. So you're restricting their ability to earn an income, not directly and by force, but indirectly. So they attend this bullshit certification course, which is crap, by the way. I've gone online, had a look at some of them. I mean, seriously, these are things that should be taught in junior high school. And so the kids are forced to go through that, can't get a job. So you're restricting their income. They're losing money. And so the time even though they may not be paying for the course, even the time they're spending there, they're not making any money. And so nor are they learning anything. So it's something of an outrage that this is being imposed on. And now, because the certificate factory is if it's free for everyone, the certificate factory will go at full tilt. It'll go at full bore. Everyone's going to be flocking to these certificate factories. No one's going to learn anything, but they'll be flocking to them nonetheless. So then employers, as they're doing now with degrees, even basic jobs that aren't well paying. In fact, they're paying less than the average wage. And there are now so many jobs out there that even though it pays less than the average wage, they expect a degree, and masters will be a master's or will be very favourably viewed and things like that. This is for a job that pays less than the fucking average wage. So now this is going to happen with the certificate factories of the community colleges. Employers will be insisting, well, I want you to have 3 units. You must have a minimum of 3 units in this course, like retail or retail supervision or so on. Now, if you look at the build up there, this could mean that the kids are going to have to spend something like 2 to 3 years at the community college to get the relevant certificate. The units, as they call it. I think it's like 3 months is a unit or something like that. But if they're required to have 3 or 4 units of retail, this is to get a shit job in a retail store. Then that could be 12 to 15 months. Then they're required to have 2 or 3 units of supervision. If they want to become like a department head or team leader or something like that, then that could be 2 years at community college. So they've lost 2 years of income. But it means that kids will be forced to go through this. Also, there's elements of retraining. So say someone's in the factory in the town gets closed down, and the only other jobs are in I don't know, retail or packing stuff for Amazon or whatever the fuck it might be. Then people will be forced to, we can't give you a job till you've gone through that stuff at community college. Now, who's going to pay them money while they're doing that? How are they going to live while they're doing that stuff? Even though it may be for free, how are they going? And these sort of things. So it's and I appreciate that the government wants to wave around a headline and preach to the leftist gallery of free education, because it's got this symbolic attachment to that it creates equal societies, and it doesn't. It never has and never will. So this is my concern, that it's going to devalue education, and it's going to mean that junior high school and senior high school become even less meaningful than they already are. So there was a time, and in my lifetime, by the way, that if you completed senior high school, you were regarded as well educated, and they would give you a 10% bonus on your salary, on your pay, if you'd completed senior high school on the basis that you'd received a good education. I mean, this was, and but by the way, those were in the merit days, where if you flunked junior high school, they wouldn't let you go to senior high school. So by the mere fact that you completed senior high school, and particularly if you graduated, then you were viewed as being part of a smaller league, which, by the way, you were. You represented at that stage something like 3% of the kids that started high school. Whereas today, people that finish high school and go to university in many countries are now somewhere between 40 and 70% of the number of kids that start high school. So this gives you an indication how far standards have fallen. And this is going to be the same in community college. Whatever standards may exist, assuming any exist at all, but whatever standards may exist, governments, because they're paying for it all, governments will be putting, you know, universal intense pressure on all community colleges. Pass everybody, give everybody a fucking certificate. Don't argue, don't give me back chat, just do it. Because that's, you know, they can think, oh, look, you know, we've created another million you know, educated people here. So they'll be looking for those sort of headlines. And to do that, they have to lower standards. So I would argue that extending, you know, giving free education to everybody through TAFE, even if it is well-meaning, and I don't think it is, but even if it was, it would, I think, create, through lowered standards and through forcing kids to spend more and more time, useless, wasteful time at a certificate factory instead of out working at a job. And so it'll create far more problems for the society at large than benefits it may deliver. Been fantastic today, your pushback channel. Thank you for listening.